There's nothing to the Russia investigation. It's a waste of time.
What do you believe? You know what the national security institutions believe. What do you believe?
What do you mean what they believe? We don't really, I mean, that there may have been, I think, look, I was there. It's a total and complete farce. Russian collusion is a farce.
Okay. Former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon refusing to concede that Russia interfered with the 2016 election in our country. He sat down, as you saw, with Charlie Rose of 60 Minutes for his first on-camera interview since leaving the administration. President Trump has likewise declined to acknowledge that Russia meddled in the election. Forgive me. That's despite intelligence showing the Kremlin tried to influence the outcome. Since leaving the Trump administration, Bannon has vowed to go to war for the president. He's using his position at Breitbart News to further that end, but he hasn't refrained from taking his former boss to task over a few things. One of the more notable moments from the 60 Minutes interview has to do with the fired former FBI Director James Comey.
Someone said to me that you described the firing of James Comey. You're a student of history, as the biggest mistake in political history.
That would probably be too bombastic even for me, but maybe modern political history.
The White House today is standing by the president's decision to fire James Comey and leveled a pretty serious accusation at the former FBI director from the briefing room podium today.
On the Comey firing, I think that we've been pretty clear what our position is, and certainly I think that that has been shown in the days that followed that the president was right in firing Director Comey. Since Director's firing, we've learned new information about his conduct that only provided further justification for that firing, including giving false testimony, leaking privileged information to journalists. He went outside of the chain of command and politicized an investigation into a presidential candidate.
Just to drill down a little bit on what you said a moment ago regarding James Comey, you said that he was responsible for giving false testimony. Do you believe that Comey either perjured himself before Congress or at the very least misled Congress in his testimony?
I think that's something probably for DOJ to look at, not me. I'm not an attorney.
President Trump's lawyers, according to a new story out tonight in the Wall Street Journal, wanted him to fire his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. According to the report, quote, among their concerns was that Mr. Kushner was the advisor closest to the president who had the most dealings with Russian officials and business people during the campaign and transition, some of which are currently being examined by federal investigators and congressional oversight panels. President Trump's attorney calls this report completely false tonight. Ty Cobb telling NBC News that Jared Kushner is, quote, one of the president's most trusted, able, and intelligent advisors. Joining us tonight, Eli Stokols, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at Pentagon, CIA, and former counsel to the House Intelligence Committee. Gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast. Eli, I won't ask you to reveal sources and methods by asking you who's out to get Jared Kushner. What do you make of this effort to get Jared Kushner?
Well, I think it's clear that Steve Bannon has Jared Kushner in his sights, and that's what he's doing when he's talking about calling the Comey firing one of the biggest political blunders in modern political history. He's talking about Jared Kushner, who was at Bedminster with President Trump and a few others the weekend that they decided to fire Comey. He's laying that at the feet of the president's son-in-law. I think as far as who is, in the legal team and the story that we reported tonight, there was some conflicts and disagreement among the attorneys a few months back about whether or not Kushner should stay on, and that's because they saw this investigation tightening, and there were some concerns about the things that Kushner had done. Now, they were not all in agreement on that, and I don't know that it's personal with these attorneys so much as it is with Steve Bannon, who worked in this White House and came, to argue and fight with Kushner quite a bit. But with these attorneys, the concern was preserving the administration, keeping their case as strong as they could be, and they had some serious concerns about Kushner being a big liability.
So, Jeremy, because you know the tools of investigation, congressional and otherwise, nobody's looking to do a hit job on this broadcast on Jared Kushner, but if you can answer generally, what would make him a risk? What would make him a liability among the things Eli just mentioned?
Well, any staff member, Jared Kushner or otherwise, who were engaged in conversations with the President of the United States about the firing of Jim Comey with the express purpose of impeding a lawful investigation into the Russia matter, any individual, any staff member would be at least a witness and possibly a target in a congressional, a counterintelligence, and a criminal investigation. And so for that person to hang around the White House, for that person to continue to engage in conversation with the president, really opens them and fundamentally the president and the presidency to enhanced legal risk. And that's why I think lawyers probably said anybody who was involved in that decision probably should not be talking to the president and probably should not be working at the White House.
And Eli, to the matter of Mr. Bannon, a very tough assessment of the president's political acumen from the same man who just declared himself wingman for life, friends forever.
Well, that's right. I mean, Steve Bannon, sort of a legend in his own mind here, he showed a lot of leg to Josh Green in terms of allowing him to write that book that was very favorable in terms of Steve Bannon and the outsized role that he played. And certainly he did play a big role toward the end of that campaign. But Bannon likes taking the credit for the good things and then likes sort of saying, well, that's just the president. When he was asked about the tweeting by Charlie Rose, he said, well, you're never going to stop that. That's just the president. So he likes to take credit for a lot of the positive and likes to sort of deflect blame for a lot of these other things. But yeah, it is an interesting tightrope that he's walking, trying to sound independent and tough while also saying that he's going to be, pushing very hard for this administration, attacking people who are in the way of this administration, and even threatening to go out and perhaps primary Republicans who don't fully embrace the Trump agenda. I'd remind people that Breitbart and Steve Bannon was basically the driving force behind a primary of Paul Ryan a couple of years ago, and Paul Ryan won by about 60, 70 points. So a lot of bluster. Whether it actually amounts to much is something that we'll have to wait and see.
Jeremy, were you surprised at that moment during the briefing? The question on Comey came to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She clearly looked down and had language prepared. They went there again on Comey, and I'll say it again, a guy who's bearing in Washington was Elliot Ness, and a guy who left behind a lot of friends in Washington.
Yeah, I think it's clear from that rehearsed answer that Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave that they clearly are trying to discredit Comey publicly. They fear him as a witness. They don't want him testifying in a grand jury. They don't want him testifying against the president on this obstruction matter. They are worried that Bob Mueller and his team will credit Comey's testimony, and they are doing everything they can to rally their base to discredit Comey. It shows you just how nervous the White House is about the obstruction aspect of this case.
Eli, were you surprised by that same moment and by this language, this wording that she was intent to get through?
It's hard to be surprised by much these days, Brian, but it was interesting. It was obvious that they were ready for that question and had prepared that answer. And I think we've seen this for months now, ever since the Comey hearing drew all of our attention. This White House and this president have really had no problem attacking Jim Comey publicly because, as Jeremy says, that's what this is. In the court of public opinion now, this is a battle against Jim Comey. And so the attack is on a guy who leaked information to the press, who politicized this investigation during a political campaign, who's politicizing this now. Basically, they want Americans to look at Jim Comey and whatever he's saying and be skeptical. Clearly, the information that Comey put out about his engagements and his meetings with the president at the White House that he put out through a friend to the press, that was not classified information. A lot of what the White House is saying sort of falls apart when you poke at that argument. But they're engaged in a PR battle right now, and Jim Comey, certainly in the context of this broader investigation, is a top target.
And Jeremy, arguably this borrows from the Bannon kind of anti-institutionalist presidency. This president and those around him have decided just not to be that into Comey, to be in the thrall of his image or his resume in Washington.
Yeah, and I thought Bannon's response during the 60 Minutes interview was concerning, because he said this was a political mistake, or actually he said it was a big mistake in modern political history. That in some ways is underplaying it, and I think deliberately so, because it wasn't just a political mistake or a mistake by the president that really wasn't substantive but rather political. This was undermining the rule of law. This was impeding a criminal investigation. This was really from the top legal official of the United States of America, the president, saying, I will not be bound by an investigation. I will not be bound by the rule of law. That's about as big as it gets, Brian.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.